Hi everyone, I'm Ludwig Sidemark from Lancaster University, and with me for this presentation we also have Chris Clark from Lancaster and Shu Sung Jang from KU Leuven. And we're going to present our work on outline pursuits, gaze-assisted selection of occluded objects in virtual reality. Occlusion presents a principal problem for selection in 3D environments. This reduces the target area for pointing and increases selection ambiguity. Users can change the position to improve the view they have of an intended target. However, this is a limited option when movement is restricted, such as when sitting, or if the tracking space is limited. In this work, we propose to support selection of occluded objects with outline pursuits. As shown in the figure, the concept is to display the outlines of objects that lie in the pointing direction and to generate a distinct motion along each outline. Users can then disambiguate the selection by following the motion around their intended target with their eyes. But before we go into the details of outline pursuits, I would like to take a step back and look at some related work. Raycasting is commonly used for selection where the user controls a ray via a controller or body part. However, targets at greater distances are harder to select due to limitations of human motor control and motion tracking. To compensate for accuracy and occlusion issues, raycasting can be combined with volumetric techniques for selection, which require disambiguation from initially selected objects. And this can be done via a manual step or by applying heuristics or contextual information. With gaze, it is easy to be accurate from a user perspective, but sensing is difficult, which limits usability. Pursuits offer an alternative selection technique where the user follows a moving target with their gaze. A selection is then performed by correlating the target and the eye's motion trajectories without the need for eye tracking calibration. Selection is robust, provided candidate motions are sufficiently different. Prior work has used smooth pursuit for selection and disambiguation in VR, however, for selection of objects presented in motion. A distinct novelty of our work is that we instead present motion around static 3D objects to facilitate their selection by pursuit without changing the object's size or position. With that being said, Chris is now going to break down outline pursuits and the steps of interaction.
Thanks, Ludwig. From a user's perspective, selecting an object using outline pursuits involves two stages. The first stage is candidate selection, which is used to reveal potential targets using coarse-grained pointing. The second stage is selecting one target from the candidates using smooth pursuit-based selection. We will first look at the candidate selection stage, which consists of cone casting, outline extraction, and motion generation. Candidate targets are selected using a cone casting technique. This stage is designed to encourage coarse-grained, lazy pointing, which can be performed with any type of pointing modality and reduces visual clutter. As we are in a controlled virtual environment, we can accurately extract the outline of virtual objects to reveal objects available for selection and to provide a predictable path for smooth pursuits without having to change the properties of the object itself. Once we have extracted the outlines, we can augment them with target movements to be used for smooth pursuit selection. The goal here is that each moving target moves in a unique trajectory. In the first instance, we utilize the direction in which the targets move to create two groups, clockwise and anti-clockwise. For more than two candidate targets, we set the number of rotations per second to be equal. We then maximize the phase differences between target movements to ensure each trajectory is unique as possible. We also have to carefully consider how to present outlines and target movements in the presence of occlusion. For this, we looked at 4 different variants. Whole outline, where the entire outline is visible, even under occlusion. Shared outline, where the target moves along the visible part of the object. Cut outline, where the target moves along the shortest path to the next visible part. And jump outline, where the target jumps to the next visible part. A user study with 16 participants revealed that performance and usability ratings were consistent across the outlines. This indicates that designers can freely choose an outline that fits their application without risking major performance penalties. Once the candidate targets have been revealed, the final stage is to select one of the targets. This is achieved using smooth pursuit eye movements to disambiguate one target amongst many, followed by confirming the selection. Target disambiguation occurs when the user follows the relevant target using their gaze, resulting in smooth pursuit eye movements. The system takes as input the user's eye positions and all of the candidate target positions as spatiotemporal trajectories. We then calculate a similarity metric for each target to determine which, if any, the user is following. Traditionally, disambiguation and confirmation occur in a seamless fashion for smooth pursuit interactions, when the similarity value of one of the targets surpasses a threshold. In this work, we also consider separating disambiguation and confirmation stages, which removes the need for a threshold. This may be used for selection based upon specific timing, or when a user wishes to highlight or learn more about an object prior to making a selection. I will now hand over to Shui Sung, who will discuss the techniques and applications we built based on OutlinePursuits.
Thanks, Chris. We demonstrate OutlinePursuits with the implementation of two concrete techniques, one for hands-free selection and one extends controller-based recasting. Each leverages a different call screen and selection confirmation mechanism. The hands-free version uses the head for candidate selection and the similarity threshold for confirmation. This technique allows for hands-free applications or for users to interact with out-of-reach objects without having to put down or stop interacting with virtual objects already in hand. We developed a virtual cityscape application to illustrate this technique. The application lets users explore the city and buildings using only their head and eyes, with selection triggering additional information. In contrast to other gaze-based techniques such as gaze duel, hands-free OutlinePursuits enables a user to gaze upon objects for an indefinite period without making a selection. The second technique is controller-based OutlinePursuits, which utilizes controller-based pointing in the call screen stage and a button click to confirm the selection. We developed a room planner application to showcase the technique. Users can select and manipulate objects that are occluded or in close proximity to each other without forcing the user to change their point of view or hand position. This means users are able to select an object with little hand movement and thus plan their hand placement for the following object manipulation. Separating disambiguation and the confirmation stages allows the user to check additional details prior to confirming selection. We designed and conducted a user study to investigate the performance of the proposed OutlinePursuits techniques against the baseline techniques and gathered user feedback. In a VR environment, participants were tasked with selecting a target object among many as fast as possible. We varied the object densities, distance to the user, and the levels of occlusion. We measure selection time, error rate, head and controller movement, and the user's preferences. Hands-free OutlinePursuits required minimal head movement and showed no difference with the baseline technique at high occlusion. However, it suffered from higher selection times and error rates, despite feedback stating the interaction technique was simple. This was in part due to some participants not reaching the required threshold for selection, which resulted in large variance across participants. Controller-based OutlinePursuits achieved consistently low error rates across all conditions. It also required less movement from the participant, independent of the level of occlusion or distance to the target. Preference-wise, users felt there was little difference between conventional recasting and OutlinePursuits techniques. However, many favored recasting because of the faster selection time at low occlusion. Now back to Ludwig for the conclusion.
So to wrap up our talk, we presented OutlinePursuits, which is a novel technique for effective selection of occluded objects in virtual reality. OutlinePursuits does not require line of sight and requires minimal body movements for selection, making it ideal in situations with restricted movements. By adding to the already existing utility of outlines, objects can be selected without changing their properties. We demonstrate how combining smooth pursuit for disambiguation with other modalities for confirmation reduces the parameter search space and risk of accidental activations, while providing more opportunities for the provision of feedback. Our results show the compelling advantages of outline pursuits for highly occluded targets, which opens up further possibilities of combining the techniques with alternative selection techniques to allow efficient selection at all levels of occlusion. And that was all we had for this presentation. Thank you for listening, and we're happy to take any questions.